That is brilliant. Lovely. Okay. Well, you both know me, and my email address there is d.caldwell@ulster.ac.uk, and I'm typically based on the Coleraine campus. So as part of Future You Week, we really found it important to, particularly for final year students, to hone in on finding the perfect employer fit. How do you do that? Because you as a student, have that right as well. It's not always about what the employer is looking for, it's also what that soon-to-be graduate is looking for as well. So in today's session then, I'm going to just briefly identify how employability and careers can help you and support you. Then we'll look at the 8 key aspects, the employer fit framework that really you should be considering as well. So it's not just a matter of blindly going out there and selecting an employer, that you look carefully at your framework that will help you negotiate that particular graduate position. And essential employer company research questions to be explored as well. And then just a short conclusion. So you'll probably, if you've attended any of the sessions this week, you'll maybe have seen this slide. But how the employability team at Ulster can help you is through your employability advisors on your campus. And there is a number of ways that they can really help you through your CV, looking at your CV, one-to-one reviews, and that critiquing that. And that might take 2 or 3 times to do that. That's absolutely fine. Also, if you have an interview coming up, we can provide support with mock interviews. And that could be an interview, it could be an online interview, or it could be face-to-face, but we can support that as well. And there's a wide range of digital career resources in our employability portal, and it's definitely well worth having a little look at several of these resources. Now, I do know that I mentioned this yesterday to students. Your LinkedIn profile and your Handshake profile, it's vital to have those as up to date as you possibly can, because they are really, really very, very important recruitment platforms for you and for your brand, particularly if you're seeking graduate employment. We can also help with job application forms, and it's always really good to get a second pair of eyes to critique your application form, because sometimes I'm very guilty of it myself when we're working on something for so long that we don't see our own mistakes. So it's just important that you get a fresh pair of eyes through your employability team to just have a little look at your application form. And then obviously there's the one-to-one guidance appointments as well. And as you know, both Ruth and Brendan are on the Future You programme that are facilitating of that scheme that we have available. And you're aware how to book an appointment through Handshake. That's brilliant. That's good. So in terms of while it's true that you're somewhat confined by the job market and the opportunities it presents, it's also true that your preferences are important. So what you want out of a job is very, very important to you as a soon-to-be graduate. Ideally, you'll find a job that you want to keep for several years, or might only be for a couple of years, and then you want to progress up the ladder, or you want to maybe change different directions. And that will put you on the path to bigger and better things after you leave. That means understanding what you want and need in a job and what you're looking for from that employer. So before you start scheduling interviews and practicing your elevator speech, it's really, really important, to consider which employer is right for you. So if you want your first graduate job to be a good fit for you, you'll need to be mindful of several key aspects, such as the size of the organisation, the type of culture that organisation has, to the prospects for training and travel, for example. And this is research was conducted by Travel Jobs just last year. So just have it in your mind, the perfect fit for you. So in terms of the employer fit, then the key aspects to consider is the size of the company culture, the location of the job, commuting. Is that something that you want to do, or would you prefer to stay local to your hometown, for example? I'll go into these in more depth in a moment. Are you considering work-life balance as an employer fit that's really essential to you? Are you interested in getting additional training on the job, for example? Are you looking for different career paths within the organisation? Or is it a job that you want to work in where there is a lot of travel? So these key issues are really, really important for you to consider going forward. And quite a lot of these you might think about absent-mindedly, and that's absolutely fine. But have that little tick sheet when you're applying for future jobs. So we'll go with the first one there, for example, location. So if you want to keep up an active social life, or you can't live without popping out to the high street for a lunchtime sandwich, for example, then working in the sticks out in the country, rural, might not be right for you. But if you're a country mouse, do you really want to work in a major city? Think also about how your career choice might define the regional area and the location of where you might work. For example, myself, I know that city life does not suit me, for example. Okay. Commuting. Depending on the location of where you're happy to work, you'll also have to consider where you live. And then think about how far you're really prepared to commute to your job. If you have no car, for example, find out if there are good public transport links to where the employer is based. Now that might sound quite basic and simple, but this is reality in terms of commuting. Work-life balance. How important is work-life balance to you going forward in your career with the employer? So when choosing employers, think also about the nature of the work you want to do. With some careers, longer hours are part of the course, but employees are usually rewarded with financially in return. Look into the flexibility working opportunities that are offered. And more with the pandemic, you will see that many organisations have now a flexible working policy. Okay, so that's something to consider as well going forward in your career. Another key aspect is training with that employer. And when you're, considering that correct employer fit. So to progress in certain careers, training is paramount. It's essential. Access what training is offered and how is it typically provided. Will you be trained in-house on the job, or opportunities to attend external courses, for example? So if your career choice involves sitting professional exams, find out what study leave might be available within that particular organisation. And that's even a question you could ask at an interview as well. In terms of your career path then, you don't want to be stuck in a dead-end job with no prospects of promotion. So find out what opportunities are available within the employers that interest you, and see if you can find out how graduates in a company typically move up the ladder within that particular organisation. Now you might ask me there, well, how will I find that information out? LinkedIn is a prime platform to find out that type of information, because when you are using LinkedIn, you can actually see alumni from Ulster University, for example, who have connected with that particular employer. And when you do see that individual that has studied at Ulster University, please don't be afraid to link up with them via LinkedIn. Introduce yourself professionally and explain to them who you are, what you studied, and ask them general questions about the employer. For example, the type of culture the organisation is. Okay, what are their training opportunities like? Do they have that flexible working policy in place? Okay, so please don't be afraid to reach out to alumni from Ulster University, because you soon too will be an alumni from the university, and somebody maybe in 2 years' time could be reaching out to you. In terms of travel then, some employers offer the chance to travel. For example, we have the graduate internship program here at Ulster University. There was a session just running earlier there this morning from 10:30 to 11. But if you've missed that, that's okay, don't worry. You'll be able to pick that up. There's an opportunity to travel there, or there's a graduate to export program as well that's run in connection with Ulster University, Invest NI. But it's not only open to Ulster University, and I know because it is an export program that 6 months of the program is expected for you to work overseas. Okay, but it is with a local company in Northern Ireland who have offices or businesses elsewhere throughout the world. So that's a good way to test the water in terms of travel. For example, there's a 6-month assignment that I mentioned. Okay, there's Brendan has a wee question. Brendan.
Yes, hi Donna. Would you have a link or anything, any info on the export program, or would it be a matter of going on the Employability website?
Yes, I will indeed. Certainly. Yes, I will certainly. What I'll do is at the end of the session, Brendan, remind me and I'll put that into the chat function. Certainly.
Yeah, no worries,
and basically with the graduate to export program, because it's a Northern Irish companies and it's in line with Invest NI, you get a postgraduate qualification as well with that through Ulster University. And I know the course director for that particular program is a gentleman by the name of Dr. Patrick Ibenson.
Okay.
And he's based on the McGee campus within the school, the International School, Business School. Okay, but I do know many students personally that have that are on that program as we speak, ranging from students who have studied drama, for example, that are on business. These courses, these graduate to export programs are widely business, widely research-based programs. Okay. Yeah. But they are open to a wide range of disciplines. All right. I certainly will, Brendan. That's a great call. I will certainly. No problem at all. So if you love traveling and to see, that would be a great tester to see if this was, a possibility for you. Okay. But I mean, equally, if you don't want to live out of a suitcase, because it's not for everybody, and you really aren't prepared to be mobile, this might also dictate your career and your employer choice as well. Okay. I noticed that we've had Prasanya, I'll go over this again, don't you worry, all right? And it will be recorded anyway, and you will have access to the slides via YouTube and also via our Future You website. This slide is very important. A few questions that I have put in here for you to have in your mind when you're researching these employers going forward. Okay? When you're doing your research about a particular organization, check out their website, conduct your research, check out to see what the staff turnover is like, because what does that tell you if the staff turnover is high in an organization? Anybody want to hazard a guess there if the staff turnover is very high? That it may not be for you. Okay. All right. If the staff is sort of, a turnstile approach, well, that organization may not necessarily be for you. Also, ask yourself this question: how the skills developed in this job will impact your next job search. Okay. Very important to be always thinking forward. And is there a sense of purpose in the job that you're doing? Or this employer that you're working for, or you're going to be working for, or you're searching for? It's very important. How is the company performing? You don't want to be joining an organization tomorrow and then closing up shop in 3 weeks' time. So it's very important to have these questions in your mind. And a good way to get a lot of these questions answered again is through your connections on LinkedIn with somebody who has actually worked there. What benefits are important to you within that organization? Is it, for example, you're very, very keen in getting and seeking additional training? Is it that work-life balance? Is that really important to you? Because if they don't offer additional training, for example, or if they don't offer that work-life balance, that might actually prevent you from applying to that particular organization. Another question is, who succeeds within the organization? Who fails and why? Is a question you could certainly consider. And in the particular job, how is performance judged on a daily basis and a weekly basis? Is another key question. And how the company and the manager are known to treat employees. Are they good managers and good employers to work for? Do they really care for their staff? This is very, very important for you to be happy in your graduate role. More so with lockdown and how things have moved on in terms of the world of work. You need to consider open plan offices, for example, or an open plan space. Is this a collaboration dream for you, where Brendan can work with me openly in an open plan office, for example? Or is it a productivity nightmare? And what we mean by that is, in an open plan office, there's a lot happening in the office. It can be quite noisy at times, for example. Is that a place you would be happy working in, for example? Or it may not be an office. It could be in a lab, for example. Or do you prefer working more so on your own? That's very, very important to consider. Also, how important is salary to you? Does any of you know what a typical graduate salary is? Please feel free to add it into the chat, or even hazard a guess. Or what is your value? If I was to hire Brendan today, for example. Okay, Prasanna, brilliant. Great guess there. I would say you're very right. You're talking a span between 18 and maybe 23 or 24,000 there. So you're not far wrong there, Prasanna. That's absolutely right. Okay, you need to know your value as a graduate from Ulster University. Okay, and the skills that you've developed. Okay, and don't sell yourself short in terms of your salary. Okay, and do you like working as part of a team or by yourself? Because there may be an opportunity there for solo working. Do you like that? Can you perform better like that? Or would you prefer working in a larger group? So these are, key research questions in terms of employers that you need to consider going forward. Anything else you feel that you would like to ask an employer? Or if not directly the employer, an employee, maybe on LinkedIn? Is there any other burning questions you feel that would, sway you to take up that graduate position with the particular employer? If there is anything you can think of, feel free to add it into the chat. And
Donna,
how to find a job at your dream. Yes, Brendan.
Where it said about the size of the company at the start, what sort of considerations would go into that? Whether what sort of I get the idea between like a big corporation or a smaller business, but what sort of other things would you have to think about?
Very good question, Brendan. Excellent. Thanks for asking that. Certainly. Okay, so we take a larger organisation, the likes of our PwCs of this world, or our Citibanks of this world, okay, where they employ thousands of people internationally. Or we take a small business, a small local business, we'll say for argument's sake here in Northern Ireland, Plotbox. or indeed the company that we had on board yesterday, it was a digital marketing company who employ 11 staff. Okay. Now, in terms of the size of those organizations, but because I am working in a small company, there is the high possibility that I will be subjected to a huge range of different tasks. Whereas the difference between a small company and working for that large 1,000+ employees could be that you are in a particular designated area, specializing in a particular role. Okay, but if you're an individual that is interested in learning really, really quickly, a wide range of different skill sets, I would suggest then that you consider a small to medium-sized business. Okay, because a small company does not have the resources, obviously. Okay, take that company yesterday, the digital marketing company that we were working with. They had 11 staff, and the staff are going to be subjected to a wide range of different jobs, different skill sets they're developing, and it's going to really, really make them a well-rounded individual. With a larger organization, what I would say, because I've worked in both, so what I would say, Brendan, is really and truly, in a larger organization, it can be quite difficult and challenging to get a job done, because there's a lot of different bureaucracy and different people have to sign off different elements of the work that you're doing, etc., etc. Okay, and that can be frustrating sometimes if you're that individual doing that work. Whereas in a smaller company, you don't really seem to have that as much. But within both of them, you really do work at a fast pace. From my own experience working in a small company, definitely the skill set that you learn, you really do learn a wide range of skills. And there's nothing to stop you then moving from that small business with all of those skills that you've developed over the last couple of years, the future couple of years, into a larger organization, you know. I hope that has answered your question there, Brendan.
Yeah,
a
it
wee
does.
question here,
Good.
Sanya, certainly. And as I'm sure you know from your own placement year, working in a large organization, it's more difficult to get to know individuals, you know, in different departments. Whereas in a small company, you can imagine with 11 staff, you're going to get to know all of them staff, the manager, the director, very, very quickly. So it's like almost like a family network. All right. Is it good for apply a graduate program in law or local firm in law? What is the best option would be to get good experience? Okay, brilliant. So Sanya, you're studying law, I take it, yeah? Brilliant. Okay, law program in law or local firm law. You know, it would be really, really good. We had a student on board, one of our guest speakers in the Careers Cafe, I believe it was yesterday, that has secured her training in a local firm. So if you had networks within local law firms, that might be a really good way to go, you know. But there's nothing to stop you from applying for both, okay? You know, for that graduate program. Or indeed with a local law firm, Prasanna. So I would actually apply for both, because that way you're in with two shots. Okay, you're not leaving anything to chance, basically. But depending on your networks, depending on your networks there, Prasanna, if you knew of a local firm, I would definitely be reaching out to them, 100%. Okay. That's good. And there's a little question there from Ruth. I know most companies have websites, but what would you do if a company doesn't have a website for you to find out about it, search for relevant information? Very good point there, Ruth. Okay. But you're very right. Most companies do have websites, but you can look at business companies, like check out the likes of InvestNI, for example, for that particular company. Okay. Your community, businesses in the local area, they may have snippets of information for that particular company. Or indeed, if you know somebody who works in that company, you know, or a family member, bring in your networking again, friend, relative that knows that small company that doesn't have a website, to find out, you know, general information, going through those questions again. You know, how's the company doing? You know, how's it performing? What benefits, you know, does that small company, for example, have that would align to your beliefs? Okay, that's good, brilliant. Okay, keep adding the questions in there. There's no problem at all. Finding that dream job. I like to always ask the student or the soon-to-be graduate, what is your dream job? Okay, but you may not necessarily know that yet. Or you might think your dream job's quite far-fetched in the future. But how to find that job? Get noticed by your ideal employer. Okay, so highlight several ideal employers within your area of study. Okay, so by maintaining an active presence on, again, Handshake, and I've underlined LinkedIn. Okay, using social media to set up introductions, careers fairs, networking events, and creating a positive and professional personal brand. Now, anybody who attended yesterday's session with the digital marketing small company, now remember, they are a creative industry, but he did reiterate to the audience yesterday in terms of that positive online brand, which is you. Okay, reaching out to the employer via LinkedIn when they are recruiting. And we'll say, for argument's sake, Brendan submits his application form. The first thing that they do is they go and have a little look at Brendan's social interaction, his LinkedIn account, for example. Is he on Instagram? Is he on Facebook? That's the first thing that they do. So just be mindful of that as well. So getting hired by following the organization or organizations or employers on social media, connecting with them on LinkedIn. So if it's an organization that has developed a new product, for example, or if it's an organization that has added a new service to their existing services, start going in there and making professional comments. Cleaning up on your online presence is vital. Okay, for example, your LinkedIn profile, I cannot stress this enough. If you have your LinkedIn profile, please make sure that your photograph is a professional image of you. Okay, not unlike, as I would always say to a student, not unlike a passport photograph. All right, because it is your professional brand. And staying updated on the company's job listings page as well is very, very important. And really, really, I'm going to stress this, do a little every day in terms of your future career. And what I mean by that is, if your CV needs updated, for example, or if your personal statement needs updated, for example, or your cover letter needs, you know, those are things that can be done, you know, little bits on a daily basis. Okay, checking LinkedIn on a weekly basis, checking out Handshake maybe on a Friday or a Monday. So do a little in terms of your career every day. And I promise you, you will succeed. But if you don't, if you sort of just leave it to chance, it doesn't work like that. You really have to be working at it constantly. And it is difficult. There's no doubt about that. So a little every day to keep you informed of who is recruiting out there. Is my CV up to date? Is it ready to professionally represent me? Is my LinkedIn account really the best I can make it. And don't be afraid to say to me or one of my colleagues, whichever campus that you're on, one of the employability team, Donna, can you have a little look at my LinkedIn profile, please? Or can you have a little look at my Handshake profile? Or can you get me, just please check this application or this cover letter that I'm sending out? Absolutely no problem at all. Even if you have to ask 6 times, that is no problem. You're better getting it right and accurate. All right. In one of our talks this week as well, I believe it was the Monday Careers Cafe session, but you'll be able to get all of these again on YouTube. I was quite surprised. They mentioned they spend really short seconds on your CV. The 7-second rule, and I was quite shocked at that's a very short period of time. So you can't afford to have any errors per grammar, per punctuation in your CV. All right. So employers are looking, you know, for really the cream of the crop. That's grand, no problem at all. But you, as that soon-to-be graduate, just you remember that employer fit. Okay, go through those questions. Think of your travel, think of the size of the business, and so on. No problem at all, Prasanna, certainly, I will indeed. Now, just in case you've missed any of the sessions this week, don't you worry, they're on demand. Check out our YouTube channel for the session recordings, youtube.com/channel/UCZZ719 JHBBZ_W6G8C VI2AWQ. Or you can visit the Future You webpage and you'll be able to, for example, today's recording, you'll be able to get that this afternoon. Okay. For all final years as well, that's on the chat here today, just in case you haven't already, the graduate exit survey is very, very important to the university. Basically, to help us as a university understand the experiences that you had at university and how we can better these for future students. And also to find out your employment status currently or over the next few months. So it's a very short 5-minute survey to complete, and there's an opportunity there as well to win prizes. And the closing date is not until the end of July, but obviously the sooner you do it, that's one less thing to worry about. All right. Any other questions, or is everybody happy? I'm just going back over this. No problem at all, Brendan. You're very welcome. I hope you find it useful, Brendan.
I did, yeah. It gives you things to think about and factor into your job searches.
Yes, of course, certainly. You're very right there, Brendan. And there was the size. Do you dream of being part of that gigantic company, a valued employee in a company or of around 150 people, or an essential cog in the wheel in a small business? Find out that these, if there are both small and large firms in your career sector. Okay. And then the company culture. Why did I not touch that one? The company culture. Sorry, the graduate jobs or placements don't all require a suit and briefcase, and different employers have their own way of doing things, even if they are in the same business sector. So explore different work ethics and cultures and methodologies and their values as well, and try to get a feel for whether employers are more formal and hierarchical in structure, or they're more laid back and sort of like a dress down Friday approach. So those are 2 key factors as well there. You know, the company culture is important. Okay. And Prasanna, that's all recorded, so you'll be able to get the slides there as well. Okay. I'm just going to stop